World of Warcraft is still the MMO, and nobody has taken the throne from them yet. Well, except for Final Fantasy XIV, I guess those guys did beat them a couple times, but that's whiffs, okay? That's a market we can do without. I am trying to do something else here. I think MMO design, believe it or not, improved quite a lot over the last decade, even if we do not like to see it. And even though we don't know who's gonna be the one that takes over WoW for good, I think we can get a really good idea of what it's gonna look like. Aspiring game developers, take a couple notes. What is World of Warcraft's main appeal? Answering that question is gonna help us figure out how to scratch that itch again. There are quite a few ideas that I think set World of Warcraft miles ahead of everybody else back in the day, and even still now to an extent, and if somebody wants to take on WoW, they are gonna have to double up on it. The main reason that I think World of Warcraft took over MMOs so easily is not a flashy one. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of people would think this is a weakness of the game, but it's not. The Warcraft franchise has a very distinct, cartoony, low polygon look. Now, you may not like this art style, you may not prefer it, but it actually serves a very important purpose. Every other MMO is trying to one-up WoW, okay? They are trying to make super realistic, beautiful anime characters with lots of sliders, lots of hairstyles, 69 different boob sizes, every tree has 40,000 photorealistic leaves falling off the tree every second, and it may look very impressive the year that that game comes out. And then it will look extremely dated. For good or for worse, you can pull up Vanilla WoW from 2004 and the graphics are gonna feel less dated than Dragon's Prophet that came out in 2012. That's 8 freaking years. There is so much more polygons and detail in this game, and it looks like crap. Today, it looked pretty good when it came out, once again. Also, and if you play Dragon's Prophet, I know nobody played that game, I am the only guy that liked that dragon game. Basically, the reason it failed was that the most important part of this art style though is that pretty much even back in 2004, anybody could run it. If you had a computer and if you had the internet and $15 a month, okay, that was the hard one, you could play this game. If I wanna play Albion Online, a game that runs just fine on phones, it is made on Unity, same aesthetic, low polygons. If I wanna play it on my computer, I need at least a 1060 graphics card to even run the damn thing. Classic WoW is gonna run on your 2010 laptop that is overheating all the time, just fine. As a matter of fact, when I played World of Warcraft back in my old laptop, I had a crayon next to it one time on the exhaust of the thing, and it melted the gosh darn crayon. And it still played WoW just fine. And I think that is the most crucial part of WoW's success. It turns out that no matter how many people wanna play Final Fantasy XIV, there is so many people in the world that have a computer good enough to play the stinking game. WoW's strategy of performance over graphics won over many people that, for example, would have loved to play EverQuest 2, would have loved to play WildStar, but simply did not have a computer good enough to do it. I think in a way Blizzard was brilliant, because they found a way to trick other MMOs into wasting all their limited resources in making stuff that doesn't matter, like freaking polygons. And at the same time, they can use the other MMO's marketing as their own. The next time a better MMO comes out, there is gonna be some people that go, oh, I wish I could play it, it looks super cool, but my computer cannot play it, so I guess I'm gonna play WoW. It sounds to be about the same thing, and they fall into the WoW rabbit hole forever. So whatever MMO kills WoW, it's going to need to run on low-end PCs very well. It also needs to have an art style that looks good even with low settings. And extra points, boys, if you can actually put that bad boy on PC and console at the same time. I still do not understand why people do not capitalize on this yet, but you can just plug a normal mouse and a keyboard onto a console nowadays. I got a homie that doesn't have a PC, but we can still play Age of Empires together because he has an Xbox and a mouse. It won't be a huge market, that's for sure, but that way you can capture a lot of people that never played MMOs before, and honestly, porting games to console is not nearly as hard as it used to be. The hardware from a console today is very similar to a PC, which wasn't the case before, and also depending on the engine, they are usually built in to do it easier anyway. Another thing that made World of Warcraft so massive is the wealth of content. Now, I often say that World of Warcraft is a landfill of dead content, and that's to its detriment. But if developers wanna be efficient at it, I think even an indie developer that puts their money where it should be can defeat World of Warcraft in a volume of content if they are smart. Why do people wanna go back to old zones and old raids? Transmog and mounts. That's it. If you put a bunch of cosmetic rewards that are kinda impossible to get, kinda hard, even if you don't put a lot of content behind it, there is gonna be a ton of people that are gonna keep playing the game just to get those. And you focus on the basics. You're gonna get 1 or 2 raids at launch, you're gonna get 1 or 2 battlegrounds, you're gonna get about 25 zones in total, not more than that, and you can put all the money left over from not bloating the freaking map into mounts and stuff. One thing I had always in my head is that even though I am not a fan of transmog, I always thought, what about guild uniform transmog? Maybe some pieces of transmog that you can only get if you're part of a guild that gained it, so you can, if you want, make everybody wear the same thing. I think that has a lot of potential, but I might just be a weirdo here. But as a matter of fact, I think this is one thing that ties into another thing that made World of Warcraft great, and that's character freedom. One thing that made WoW revolutionary for its time, and for some reason Korean developers can still not figure this damn thing out, you can make your character however you freaking want. No gender locking, a reasonable amount of customization on your character's looks for the most part. Blizzard's class and race combinations were way ahead of EverQuest in terms of freedom of choice, but I still think it's kinda weird that I cannot be a Torrent mage if I wanna be, like the lore or something. Explain in a way, I don't know, you got like 20 interns writing books and stuff, just pay somebody to explain away why Torrent can be mages and stuff. Who cares? And since this is a new hypothetical MMO, we are not doing the Horde Alliance faction thing, by the way. I know you're gonna get mad. Listen here, it doesn't work. As a matter of fact, a bunch of private servers long before Classic have been doing the cross-faction gameplay thing for a long time, and the world didn't end. The game is still the same, deal with it. Most people would be happy with only like 6 races if everybody could play every single one of them in their faction, and if everybody could be any kind of class within them, period. Also, please do not fall into the trap of making humans and then pointy ear humans and cat ear humans. Make something special, try to think a little outside the box for a minute. And I am not saying that you shouldn't do that, okay? People love the cat ears, people love the pointy ears, you should do that too. But you should also put a couple races that do not look like a human at all, very fantasy focused. Because what kind of dork wanna play a gnome when they could be playing a gigantic bull monster? I mean, come on, that's just self-image issues waiting to happen. Now, the last thing that sets WoW apart, and this is the sad one because this might gatekeep all the indie developers away from making this MMO that I'm talking about, Warcraft is a solid franchise. Now, that doesn't mean that the franchise is managed well, quite the contrary. I think it is amazing how they can run the lore to the ground for 10 freaking years and they still have a player base that cares. That shows this is a brand that has staying power. And being able to put your game behind something like that has a huge advantage. MMOs are freaking terrible at storytelling, okay? You are a nobody in a world of millions of people. At best, you're gonna see NPCs talking to each other and that's how you get your lore and stuff. That's about all you can do with MMOs. If you wanna make the world feel real, you're gonna have to build that world somewhere else. It can be film, it can be single player games, it can be even a book if people still read those, I don't know. I am gonna give you an example that is very good at the game and very bad at building the world. For example, Albion Online. There is people that play this freaking MMO for 12 hours a day, and if I were to ask them who is the villain of Corrupted Dungeons, who is Morgana even, the biggest villain in the game, nobody got any idea who that is, even though they play the game all freaking day, because nobody got to see her. Building a complex world that people care about takes a bunch of time and money, simple as. That's why, for example, I think the Riot MMO has a pretty decent shot at beating WoW, because if it ever comes out in my freaking lifetime, they have established characters, a very defined art style that is very recognizable, and of course, billions of dollars and the Netflix show is not gonna hurt. Of course, there has been many attempts to slap a big franchise like Lord of the Rings into a game, and it failed tremendously too. You cannot just grab Warhammer, slap a worse version of WoW on it, and sell it. People are not gonna care. I mean, they are gonna care, they are gonna argue to death about it, but then they are not gonna play it, because that's what they do. The same people that shield Lord of the Rings online do not play the freaking game. It's unbelievable. A WoW killer is not only gonna need to be as good as WoW, it's gonna need to be better. Now, there are quite a few features that I saw from new MMOs that I think you could slap on this thing and make WoW a lot better. so we can take very educated guesses into what this game should look like. First of all, you are never going to beat WoW in straight up content. We talked about it, I mean putting mounts is gonna help and stuff, but you're never gonna beat them in the amount of raids, the amount of dungeons. There is just 20 years of content. I mean, aside from Ashes of Creation, nobody's gonna spend 20 years making a freaking MMO. We are going to need a different approach to the game entirely. Theme park MMOs only work when there is constant content coming out. When the shark stops moving, it freaking drowns. Replayability can come in many different ways. Some sort of full loot PvP kept Albion Online and EVE Online going for a lot longer than it should have. Maybe some sandbox elements are gonna do, like making your guild a base and fighting for it or stuff like that. And by that I do not mean the Force in New World or the freaking Fallout 4 settlement system. Guys, it's been 20 years. If you cannot figure out player housing yet, there is something wrong with you. Just think outside the box, okay? I know you're smart, you can figure this out. Even a ranked competitive aspect of the game would work for some people. People are gonna play thousands of games of League of Legends just to see if they can get out of gold. I mean, oh, I wouldn't know about that. And they are doing it in the same map with the same content over and over and over again. Yes, there is balance changes, there is new champions coming out, but I am pretty sure if they stop doing that, people will still play it over and over forever. And actually, League of Legends is a great example of something else we are gonna need to defeat World of Warcraft. The combat needs to be a lot better, okay? We tried action combat, it doesn't work. We tried tap targeting, it doesn't work. Now, MOBA style controls work pretty well in Albion, so I got faith on that one, but you can think something else, okay? The problem with MOBA style combat is that you better sprinkle servers all across the planet, because if you're playing over 100 ping with that thing, you are not gonna have any fun. I wish I had the vision to tell you what the new combat should look like, what is a better idea than what we have, because I would be a rich man. But if you wanna kill WoW, you're gonna have to do something a lot more fun. And also, it cannot be overwhelming if you're playing it for a long period of time. Remember, this is an MMO. People play this thing all day. Your average person is gonna feel very tired after tryharding for 3 games of League of Legends, so you better find a way to make it not feel that way, because MMOs are made for wasting time, not for giving you seizures. Except Final Fantasy XIV, that's the only one. As a matter of fact, I think whoever beats World of Warcraft is gonna have a core gameplay experience. The combat, the gameplay loops, the extra activities, they are all gonna feel very satisfying in a way that WoW just cannot anymore. So if you come out of this video without anything else, whenever you try out a new MMO, or if, God forbid, you wanna make one someday, God help your soul, the first thing you wanna have in your mind should be, does fighting mobs feel fun? Does fighting 20 mobs in a row feel fun? Is moving your character around smooth and satisfying to play? Is making armor or mining copper something that is actually fun on its own? I mean, if somebody can make fishing interesting in an MMO, they got my money. Lord knows WoW can't. Then you want to worry about what kind of bosses you can putting enough mounts and professions and whatever else in the game and that you want to slap onto it. You are never going to beat Blizzard in the amount of crafted armors in the game. They have thousands. The only way you can beat Blizzard is making crafting armor fun. That's something they cannot do. Think about it this way. If you make a new game mechanic and that game mechanic is not fun unless you can see a bar go up every time you do it, that is not a good game mechanic. Make the mechanics first and then you can worry about putting more bars in your freaking game. There is gonna be plenty of bars to put in the game. This is an MMO. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.